What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the H Panel. I am your host, Harry Potvin, and to say that I am glad to be back is a huge understatement. You know, with school and work piling up, it's been really hard to kind of find some space in my schedule to get these episodes out for you. But you know what? We keep pushing through. I switched my fedora for a nice little homemade toque from one of my friends because it is getting cold out there. And yeah, we're thriving. Today, for this episode of the show, I am joined by former Boston University women's hockey captain Reagan Rust. After spending the last 8 years competing on top-tier teams at the high school, college, and professional levels, Reagan is using her current and previous student-athlete experiences to both empower and inspire the next generation of female athletes, helping them unlock their full potentials and helping them become the best version of themselves that they can be, despite all the hardships and setbacks that they may face along the way. All of Reagan's information, including her new podcast, The Unpaved Path, will be linked in the bio down below. Before I forget again, if you're listening to this wherever you are, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, give 5 stars. I don't know which platform you're listening to, but I'm trying to cover all the bases here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And now, without further ado, enjoy the show. Good, how are you?
Good. Sorry, there's a cat running around down here.
Oh, that's fine, that's fine.
Meowing.
Cats have a mind of their own, man. You can't really control them. Thank you for doing this, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
How are things where you are with the whole pandemic and everything?
In California?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't even know. I kind of just stay inside.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And go for like small blades every now and then, but everyone wears their mask and like you can't get into stores if not. Are you in Canada?
Yeah.
Or where are you?
I'm in Ontario.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the numbers are high for sure. I was in Budapest earlier and the numbers started rising, so I ended up coming home from playing pro.
Mm-hmm.
But just whatever happens.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's like going through their own thing right now, so I can't even be upset about mine.
Right, yeah, of course. Before we get too into it, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up, why you chose hockey as a sport, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I actually grew up in Mississippi, so hockey was not like a common sport whatsoever, but they had it's not SPHL. Have you heard of that?
No.
Southern Pro Hockey League.
Okay.
But it used to be the CHL, the Central Hockey League, and the Memphis River Kings actually got me into playing when I was 5 because they started a rec league and they told my sister and my mom that like, oh, there's going to be a ton of girls. You guys should come out. So my sister's a couple years older than me and she was like, yeah, I'm so down. And they're like, there's going to be so many girls. And I did whatever my sister did back then. And when we showed up, there was 3 girls, me, my sister, 1 other girl, and like 30 boys. And we're like, all right, let's do this.
Awesome.
Yeah, we basically just stuck with it from there, moving all around, playing in Nashville and Pittsburgh, all that stuff. But yeah, that's a shortened version. I could get longer, but.
Nice, awesome. So you played competitive hockey ever since you were a little kid, like you just said, and you eventually spent your NCAA career between Rochester Institute of Technology and Boston University. So what was that transition from high school athletics to college athletics like for you?
Definitely a jump. I talk about it with my friends all the time that played women's hockey, and they're just like, I wish there was a junior league. So we wouldn't have to just do that jump because the speed is obviously a lot faster than what you're used to with like 19U AAA or anything like that. And even like the academics too. You're especially, I was in public school. I went to 5 high schools actually. And each school is different in their own way, but the challenges in college is that you're trying to time manage and you're trying to get to practice and do your part-time job and then do your homework and then do your classes. And it's hard to start at first, but you talk to your teammates and then you just like find what fits for you. So I'd say at first my grades weren't too good, but I definitely brought it back up the spring semester. So I cut myself some slack for being my first semester.
Nice. Yeah, I agree, man. There should be like an in-between kind of thing because for me also, from high school to university swimming, there was a
Mm-hmm.
huge jump. And then I had always put swimming first in high school because I was like, oh, my grades don't matter. And with
Yeah.
high school, they like getting grades isn't, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but it's not as hard, like
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah,
comparison.
definitely
Yeah.
not.
And then when you go into uni and you're like, oh, I'm prioritizing swimming or
Mm-hmm.
hockey or whatever, the grades are like, actually, you have to try a little harder here. So I
Yep.
wish someone had told me that because that was
Mm-hmm.
nuts.
Yeah, and especially because you have to keep a high grade point average. Well, at least like they say 2.0, but your coaches are expecting over a 3
Yeah.
because like you are leaders on campus and people are looking to you for advice and all of that. And like if you don't have good grades, why would they want to have good grades, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's also that added pressure from just athletics in general.
Right. Yeah. As a varsity athlete, it's really common to kind of, experience pre-race or pre-competitive anxiety. So how are some ways that you personally have been able to deal with this anxiety? And do those tips and tricks kind of differ between the level of competition that you have?
Yeah, it kind of depends, I guess. Like versus a championship game or just a regular in-season game, you still get jitters, but one kind of weighs more than the other. I would say that a big thing I do is just visualizing myself. Like I
Mm-hmm.
go and I sit down, I look at the ice, and like I see myself playing the game, and like I imagine different scenarios in my head. So like I'm taking a 2-on-1, where am I going to be positioned or anything like that. And then I also do. I know it's kind of lame, but I have a highlight reel.
Okay.
And like I literally made it up myself,
Oh,
where it's like
nice.
all the really good plays that I have done or like any practices that I felt really good in. I clip those all together with like a pump up song. And I watch those whenever I'm nervous because I'm like, okay, I know how to play. And so I just want to have that basically the visual to see like, yes, I've done it before, I can do it again. And
Mm.
then the last thing I do is just positive self-talk. That's even throughout the game, especially if I start off nervous. Like I know this is a really bad example, but my first game my senior year, we were playing Northeastern. We
Mm-hmm.
lost like 5-0, I think.
Okay.
Um, that's a bad way to start, especially when you're on the ice for all 5 goals.
Oh, perfect.
The only thing I was saying the whole time was just like, just get through this game. Just get through this. Just get the puck out of the zone. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Next day we came back and tied them 3-3, so not too upset about
There you go.
that. Yeah. But yeah, the positive self-talk really helped me throughout my game.
So kind of switching gears here. What is the Pace Mentorship and what kind of inspired its creation for you?
The Pace Mentorship is basically a way for me to get one-on-one time with high school athletes that want to play in college. And we go through the recruiting process, how to talk to coaches. We talk about like the behind the scenes of college athletics, like the stuff that you wouldn't usually hear about. That's what I'm trying to show them before they kind of just get thrown into that environment. Especially a lot of schools don't do summer school before the first actual semester of freshman year, but like BU obviously did. Um, but like it's a way for them to get acclimated before they have to actually get acclimated.
Oh,
And so what brought it about was I remember how hard it was for me. I was a kind of a first generation athlete in college and like first generation college student. My parents didn't really go, well, they went, but like didn't finish. So they didn't really know what it was all about. And like nobody in my family had tried to play a college sport before. So I was talking to these coaches, I was emailing them, I was trying to find resources online, and it was just a struggle. Like not having somebody to talk to about it all was probably the worst part.
mhm.
So that's why I created the Pace Mentorship, just to give those people more information that they don't have to go searching for, and like they don't have to do it alone.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So you guys had a summer school before the first year?
At RIT we didn't, but at BU I went from my sophomore to junior year, and like as soon as I finished my sophomore year, I started my junior summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking classes with them. But they're all the freshmen do one summer semester, which is like 6 weeks. You get to like learn all about like where your classes are, all of campus, and like nobody's really on it, so it's really nice. And then you get to run through the workouts with the trainer and everything like that. So yeah, it's really fun.
That is such a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
It was
Canada,
awesome.
step your game up. Seriously. because we didn't have that, and the whole like first month was us trying to figure out what we're doing.
It's so tough too, and like that's when you should be having the most fun and making the most connections. But if you're worried about where your classes are and like how to get your homework done and who your professors are, it's just like it's such a struggle. But I was really happy that I did 2 summer terms before I even went into my junior year.
Yeah, right. That's great, and that whole website that you have is fantastic. That's such a
Thank
great
you.
idea. So one of the main topics that you kind of focus a lot of your work on is female athlete mental health. So what is your personal experience with mental health struggles as a female athlete? And how are you able to kind of persevere not only in your sport, but in life in general? Like what kind of tips and tricks worked for you?
Yeah, so mental health runs in my family. It's depression, anxiety, all of that. And so I learned at a young age that it was going to be affecting me. Not really it wasn't in my control for the most part. So it started in ninth grade. That was my first bad spell where things got really bad. And like, I didn't know that I should be talking to people or telling them how I was feeling because I was a 5-sport athlete. I was like the president of my class. I was valedictorian too, like my ninth grade year. And just, I didn't want anyone to see me as weak at that point in time. Um, so I definitely struggled because I was also captain of my teams. Like people were always looking at me, and I had like I am a super outgoing, really happy person, but on the inside I was just really struggling, and it happened a lot throughout high school. Like 11th grade, my 12th grade year, when I transferred to BU, I had a really tough time. And considering I went to 5 high schools, I didn't think it was going to be a big issue, but I had just a lot that affected me throughout my first 2 years that went over to BU. But I knew like I made the best decision in the end. And some things that I used was journaling. I journaled basically every single day for years. And it helped me so much just to kind of put my thoughts down on paper and not have to hold it inside my head. Um, and then I realized that I had to start talking to people. And so I think my 11th or 12th grade year, I ended up reaching out to my mom saying, like, I really need a psychologist. I need somebody that I can talk to work through all this trauma because everyone has childhood trauma. It's just like a matter of how much or how little. Um, and so I wanted to work through all of that. And then I basically just used all those techniques that I got from my psychologist at the time into my college career and everything. And I haven't stopped talking to a psychologist. Like I'm taking a break right now just because things are crazy, but I'm kind of just in a bubble. So what am I supposed to talk about every time I talk to her? But yeah, I think having a sports psychologist, a regular psychologist, a therapist, or even just like having my friends to go to, I leaned heavily on all of my friends. And even like my big sister, she had already been through all those struggles and she really helped me. She was there for me through it all. And like, I'm so grateful for that.
That's awesome. Yeah. What would you kind of say to people who are hesitant to, like athletes in general, are hesitant to take therapy or go to therapy because they don't want to like kind of be seen as insane for going?
Yeah, I actually had that feeling my junior year. Even though I had already been to a psychologist and everything like that, I was talking to mine and I was like, I don't feel right. And she was like, do we need to like take you to the hospital? I was like, no, like I'm like new here. I don't want people to think that like I'm crazy or anything like that. But I think even just having her support and knowing that she was there for me was the biggest thing. And it's so much, it takes a lot of strength. It really does to speak up, especially when you're an athlete. Because there's that huge stigma behind we're so strong and like we're always happy and we're the leaders and you can always look to us in times of trouble. But it's just, where do they look whenever they're in times of trouble? And so I would definitely say speaking up is the first step to all of that, just to destigmatize what it's like to be going through all that stuff. And like, you're so high achieving. And that's what people need to see is that you struggled too. And like, you're not alone. And whenever you reach out and speak up, and I think it's just a big part of mental health in general, is just that speaking part. And that's what it really means to be a leader too, is speaking up even when it's tough.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when I was captain last year of the swim team, and that's kind of when I had gotten help before and everything, but that's when I really started going. And I was like, I really don't want these people to find out that I'm going to therapy because I'm a man, you know. But once they found out, like, the respect and like the bond that you have between those teammates is way stronger, and I don't think that gets talked about enough because they
Mm-hmm.
see you more. There's obviously a couple different ways to lead a team,
Yeah.
but one way that's really had a great response from teammates of all these teams I've talked to is like when they're open and they're honest about how they're feeling, as opposed to just locked in all the time and like
Mm-hmm.
aggressive and
Yeah.
things like that. So that doesn't really get talked about enough, and I think it should.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember, so my senior year, I was also a captain too, and there was two other captains with me, and so we really wanted to work to put, like, basically create a new culture from anything we'd ever had before, and we ended up having a record season from like the previous years where we were winning 14 games, but then we ended up winning 21 games the next
Wow.
season, and that was just because, like, yeah, it was a big jump.
Holy.
And we won a bean pot too, the first time ever. Like, we did a lot just to work with a team, and one of the things we did was um, we all sat in a room. We had kind of a mediator. She was head of I think she was like athletic director, assistant athletic director, and so she did our leadership academy and all that stuff. But what we did is we wrote down a piece of paper, like, how we see ourselves, how others see us, and then how we want to be seen. And then we talked about in our circle, and then we talked about it as a group. And a lot of people came forth and said, like, how much pressure they felt they had. And, like, I even came forth and said, like, how I don't have a relationship with my parents and that it's hard for me to see everyone else. And then, like, they all came to me and, like, we are your family. And, like,
Hmm.
it was just like one of those moments where you don't really forget it because it's really heartfelt. And yeah, it
Yeah,
was great.
that's
It's
awesome.
definitely good to talk about it.
Yeah, seriously. So, what would you want the young female athletes to hear when we're talking about mental health and kind of the setbacks that they may face along the way? Like, what would you have wanted to hear as a young female athlete growing up?
I definitely would have liked to hear that, one, it is okay to be feeling what you're feeling. I definitely did not realize that in ninth grade. I had no idea what I was even experiencing because, like, when you move from middle school to high school, you're experiencing, like, hormones, all these new things, boys, like, all these
Oh,
sports that you want to
boys.
play. Oh yeah, all your friends that you're meeting, and it's a lot to handle, and people don't really realize that. And so I would definitely say just knowing that it's completely normal what you're feeling, and that it's okay to be feeling that. Because I tell people, just embrace their feelings. You don't have to push it off. You don't have to, like, push it down deep. Um, because the sooner you embrace it, the faster you'll get through it. And that's just kind of my motto.
Right.
But yeah. Wait, what was the question again?
Yeah. So it's all good. So kind of, what would you want the young female athletes to hear when we're talking about mental health and kind of the setbacks that they may face along the way? What would
Yeah,
you have wanted to hear in that position?
yeah. I honestly think seeing people kind of like my age now speaking out about it would have definitely helped. I don't know if you've heard of Victoria Garrick. She played at USC,
I have
volleyball
not.
player. She did a TED talk on basically how she was depressed and she was, like, performing her best and all of that. um, People like her that you can look to and see that, like, she's going through the same thing I'm going through, and that it's going to be okay.
Hmm.
Like, it always ends up okay as long as you just keep going.
Great words of wisdom. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do we, kind of as a society, eliminate not only the stigma around mental health, but also kind of the setbacks that female athletes in particular will face in both collegiate and professional careers?
Definitely talking. Like, Bell, let's talk. I'm
Yeah.
all for that. Have
Hmm.
you heard of Do It For Darren?
I have. I'm not too familiar with it, but that sounds familiar. What is that?
Yeah. It's so there was an NHL player. Darren was a girl playing, I think maybe for the Lady Sens AAA team. She was 14 or so, I think, when she lost her battle with suicide and depression. And basically, it's just a whole movement. Like, we did jerseys my my freshman year of college, and basically it just does mental health research. They have, like, a full day dedicated to just talking about mental health, and I that's the biggest thing you can do
Hmm.
is just talk about it so much that people are like, oh, this is normal,
Yeah.
you know, and putting it out there, because if you can't see it, like, how would you know?
Right.
And if you don't know that you can reach out to your friends and that they'll be there to help you, like, what are you supposed to do? And so just talking about it, that's my biggest thing. I want to help end the stigma as much as possible. So I'm so open about all of my mental health struggles.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel you. I think we're going the right direction. We still have a long way to go, but
Yeah.
I remember like one of the first times I heard the word depression was when I was diagnosed with it in like my
Yeah.
first year of uni, and I was like, "What is this?" Because no one had ever talked about it before. So now that now that we're kind of like that generation that's talking to the people, I'm hoping it kind of grows into the culture a little more.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely seen a change over the
Hmm.
years, even since my first year of college until my senior year of college, how much more open people are about it, about sharing their stories. And I know in high school, it was just completely different.
Hmm.
And that was only like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But it definitely helps that NHL players have been speaking out about it, that NBA players and just like those figures make all the difference.
Hmm. Yeah, when Michael Phelps opened up about it, the swim community was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa!"
I
Yeah.
know that one was insane. I actually talked about him in one of my one of my school presentations.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah,
So with the pandemic, it's kind of hard to both stay mentally and physically healthy, whether it be lack of motivation, lack of resources. So how have you personally been able to stay both mentally and physically healthy during this pandemic?
I will not lie to you. I have struggled probably just as much as the next guy. The first few months for me were definitely tough because I was living downtown in San Diego, and so like getting outside to get fresh air was just not really a thing because I was literally in the city,
Hmm.
and so that was tough. But I started to do yoga on YouTube. I don't know, yoga with Adrienne. I'll give her
I
a shout out.
Yep,
Love
do that
her. Do you
every
do it
day.
with
Yep,
her?
of course.
And then I also started doing like little mini workouts, just anything to get moving. And then I got my blades, my roller blades,
Oh,
and
nice.
I was blading all around the city. I think I would do one time I bladed 15 miles, all the way to like Sunset Cliffs, which is really far if you know California.
Hmm.
I
I don't.
was going up hills and down hills and everything, but
Wow.
yeah, just getting moving was really tough in the beginning, but my blades really picked me up.
Yeah, nice. So with COVID cases on the rise again, the racial divide, the pandemic in general, it's often hard to keep hope and have a positive outlook on life, especially when the media kind of rudely reminds us basically every day about all the negativity going on. So
Yeah,
how have you been able to stay hopeful in a time like right now where it almost seems impossible to have?
I've honestly just been talking to my friends. Sometimes I do social media cleanses. I'm not sure if you've ever done that, but
Oh yeah.
I'll delete it for a few months at a time just to give myself a mental break because we can only take so much as humans. And like, I try to stay away from the news because, some news sources are leaning one way and leaning the other way. And it's just like, I'm just going to research if I want to research it.
Hmm.
But I also like to stay up to date. So it's finding that balance, maybe not allowing yourself more than an hour on at a time, but that and I don't know. I having been through so much already in my life, um, I just realized that no matter if you're a depressed ninth grader or anything like that, like it always gets better. And I kind of just I have that hopeful attitude even when I am down. And it's definitely tough to see the world around me like this right now, and like everyone to see the world like it. But I try to spread little bits of positivity, and like that's why I'm so grateful to be talking to all these little girls that I wouldn't say little, but they're like 12 to 18 years old, and just helping them through their journey right now has been really keeping me hopeful that they can have a positive outlook on life and like where they're headed. So
Awesome.
yeah.
This is kind of my final question for you. Um, One of the biggest issues in university or talking points in university right now is that clubs and sports were taken away due to the pandemic. And
Hmm.
for a lot of student athletes and people in clubs and what have you, these are things that those students kind of use as a stress release and kind of an escape from reality.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to first year athletes who have just had their first season taken away? And then, kind of the same question, what would you say to student athletes who had their final season taken away because of this pandemic?
Yeah. So I actually talked to women's basketball team yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
One of their practice players had, I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to be saying this, but they had tested positive. I talked to a captain yesterday.
Okay.
And she's like, yeah, we have been like, if it's one thing, it's another. And she goes, what we try to do right now is just stay as close to the team as possible. So even though they're quarantined for 2 weeks, they have been doing Zoom workouts. Like somebody, I don't know if you've seen this, The Circle, I think it is on Netflix.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I have no idea what it is. But she was saying that one of the teammates actually made characters for each player on the team, and they went on Netflix or on Zoom and like basically reenacted it.
No way.
Yeah. And so she's like, we've been doing that. We do dance workouts. We do yoga together, like whatever we can, just to like keep a positive outlook. Because whatever happens this year happens. It's happening to everyone, is what she told me. And she said that the best way you can get through it is just by going through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like eventually it's going to subside and we're going to get back to normal, but it's definitely going to be a little bit longer down the road.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to my sister because she's first year track and field right now.
Oh no.
I know.
I empathize.
Yeah. And so she's not on res, but she's in a house with like second year students, and she's gonna hate that I'm talking about this, but she she thinks it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And on it, like, I get it, but I told her, like, almost use this as like a way to, because we don't have that summer semester up here, so almost use this year as like an adjustment to the education level, and then that way you can focus more on athletics when they come back, because I don't know how they did it in the States, but there's no they basically just redshirted this year for everybody and said that
it's kind of similar.
Yeah, so they it doesn't count anyway.
Yeah.
So just focus on the school and kind of get adjusted to that, because even with like the first year party life, like it's not like anyone's going out and partying, so you're not missing anything.
Yeah.
And plus that's just going to make 2021 so much fun. Well, jeez,
hopefully.
I'm taking that back, because
don't jinx it.
I said the same thing about 2020 and got shoved in my face.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I would say to the first years, just kind of focus on the adjustment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then the last year students, I don't know.
Yeah, for them it's like that one's kind of difficult, because one, they may be able to redshirt, but if they do, it's a matter of if they'll have their scholarship. Like, do they have to push other students back, like making them do PG years before they come in?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, who pays for that?
Right, I know. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the bills in college in the United States, but they are expensive.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
$70,000 a year. I could never. Thankfully, I didn't have to.
Yeah.
But it's definitely tough for them. And I think one thing too that's good is there are leagues that girls can go play in overseas if they wanted to keep playing basketball or golf or field hockey or anything like that. So looking for that, or looking for a job, I guess.
Oh yeah, that too. I guess you have to do that.
But at the same time, it's like the point comes at some time or another. It's just a matter of how fast or when you get there. And just knowing when you're a senior that there are better things coming after your sport. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many things to look forward to once that part of your life is done. That's what's really helped me in my transition out of college athletics. So
yeah, that's another question I was going to ask. What was that transition like for you from college to finally not being a hockey player? Right? Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I actually didn't know if I was going to keep playing or not. I ended up joining with the PW, but that was 3 or 4 months after I had graduated. I ended up going on a 3-month European trip.
Nice.
Backpacking, living like a nomad. And that's like one of my favorite things doing is traveling. And I didn't get to do that whatsoever, like freely, whenever I was playing sports, because I was always on someone else's time, and I always had to be here or there, and like I had to be ready for this or that. And it was nice just to be able to have time for myself for once,
Mm-hmm.
and not have to think about anyone else. Obviously I still miss it, and you're always gonna miss it, but it's always gonna be a part of your life too. Like I can go play in a beer league game right now and have just as much fun as I did in college.
Right.
Some people may not see it that way, but I do. So
Nice.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's basically how it was.
And I think that is all of my questions. So thank you so much, Reagan, for joining me. I really appreciate it again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Before we go, I have a couple rapid fire questions that I ask everyone.
Oh goodness.
I start off really light, no biggie, but here we go. So number one, what are your top 5 singers, rappers, or musicians dead or alive right now? Really light.
Ooh, Mac Miller,
Nice.
Justin Bieber. Don't make fun of me for that one.
I won't.
Actually, he's Canadian, so you can't.
I can't.
Yeah, I like One Republic, the Chainsmokers, and who's another good one? I just like Ariana Grande's vocals. I think she's a beautiful voice.
I think that might have been the fastest answer I've ever had. I thought that would take a little longer. Wow. Well done. That's not a bad list either. Wow. Okay, that kind of took me by surprise. I'm not gonna lie, because I've had people that they're like, "Can you edit this?" Because it took like 25 minutes, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay." They were like kind of annoyed that I asked that.
Yeah, no, I love music, so.
Yeah, wow, awesome. Okay, so number 2, which takes the crown for you, pizza or chicken wings?
Pizza if I can have chicken.
Oh.
Does that work?
It actually does, because the pizza question is your favorite pizza joint, your top 3 toppings, and then does pineapple belong on pizza?
No, I hate pineapple. Oh my god, it does not belong on pizza.
Okay.
My boyfriend thinks it does. I'm just like, no, you're disgusting. But my favorite pizza joint around here, it's called Pizza Village? Village Pizza. Clearly
Nice.
I know it's my favorite. And my favorite toppings, I just like pepperoni. Sometimes bell peppers. I'm like really lame when it comes to pizza. But ranch, you have to add the ranch.
Right, yes, of course. I'm going to have to side with your boyfriend there on pineapple. But anyway.
I'm vetoing that.
Top 3 shows or movies that have gotten you through quarantine up until this point.
Queen of the South, I actually want... Sorry, I just have to say it. I want their, those black Escalades?
Yeah.
With blacked out windows, that's what I want now because of Queen of the South.
Oh, man.
I've also watched, was it Love at First Sight, maybe? I've watched like all these random
Love
things.
at First Sight. Oh, are you talking about Love is Blind?
Love is Blind, yeah, that's it. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
And then I also watched, I don't know, I've been watching The Office. On my own free will. I've never watched it before.
Oh, really? Do you like it?
Yeah.
There's like
it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, there's like a huge because I really like The Office, but there's like this running like joke or whatever that if you watch The Office you're lame, and I was like, I don't like this.
I like the memes, I'll tell you that.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay, nice. And then finally, if there's a viewer going through a similar experience to the one that you went through with mental health and your struggles as an athlete, what would you want them to hear?
I definitely said it once and I'm going to keep saying it, but knowing that you're not alone in any of your struggles, and it's going to be tough and you're going to want to quit a lot of times, but it will get better. And I can promise you that if you just keep going, it will get better.
Awesome. And with that, we are done the interview. To all my viewers, I will see you next time. Thank you for watching another episode of the H Panel. I really appreciate you guys. For more episodes of the H Panel, click this button right here. And if you want to subscribe for more videos from myself, subscribe is right down below. Thanks, guys.